McGraw-Hill Professional presents How to Retire Happy, the 12 most important decisions you must make before you retire. 4th edition, fully revised and updated. Written by Stan Hinden. Narrated by John Haag. Forward. Congratulations. You are about to read the splendid new edition of a wonderful, sensible, and simple book that will be a priceless asset to you. If you're thinking about retiring, have decided to retire within the next several years, or have decided not to retire just yet, or even if you retired some years ago, Stan Hinden's book will help you analyze the 12 vital decisions you must make at retirement and offer expert advice in each area, and do so in words that are easy to read, bereft of financial jargon and gobbledygook. I happen to be in the category not ready to retire. While I'm chronologically 83 years of age, if you measure by the age of the heart that was transplanted into my chest some 17 years ago, I'm a mere child of 43. I love my work too much to stop just yet, but I've already personally considered many of the decisions that Stan discusses, and I will be that much better prepared when and if I finally decide to retire. Most of my own expertise, such as it may be, is in the world of finance. My entire 6-decade-plus career has been in the mutual fund industry, and I fully endorse just about every one of Stan Hinden's recommendations about investing for and in retirement. To be able to afford a comfortable retirement, for example, importantly depends on the power of time and the magic of long-term compounding of investment returns, all the while sidestepping the tyranny of compounding excessive investment costs. Almost invariably, such a strategy is best implemented by using cost-efficient, tax-efficient index funds, a breed that is at last getting the widespread acceptance that it merits. Income and retirement. For most families, Social Security is a critical part of retirement income. Although we can't control the schedule of benefits, we can control the time when our payments begin. The advice this book gives is good. The longer you wait, up to age 70, the larger the check you'll receive thereafter. While Social Security is designed to provide a minimal standard for retirement income, its stream of benefits can be estimated to have a capital value of some $300,000 at age 70. That value is even better than it looks, for it is the equivalent of a fixed income investment with a built-in hedge against inflation, two priceless assets when you retire. Stan Hinden's book is also right on the mark in its chapters on making decisions about company pensions, 401k corporate thrift plans, and individual retirement accounts. His advice benefits greatly from his first-hand experience, some derived from his own investment mistakes, as he presents important information on investing during retirement, virtually all of which I heartily endorse. His 5 golden rules are, well, golden. Yet they are so simple and basic that too many investors pay no attention to them and suffer the consequences. His advice on asset allocation and the need for significant holdings in bonds or annuities to produce income is also well worth heeding. That advice may have seemed too cautious in 2000 when the first edition of this book was published, right after the greatest bull market in history. But now, after 2 stock market crashes, in 2000 to 2002 and again in 2007 to 2009, the advice seems almost prescient. Indeed, the kind of balanced approach to investing that Stan recommends has performed admirably in the 11 years since I wrote the foreword to the first edition of How to Retire Happy in August 2000. For example, a $10,000 investment in Vanguard Wellington Fund, a conservative balanced fund with about 65% of its assets in stocks and 35% in bonds, would have provided an average annual return of 7% per year. That is, by August 2012, it would have grown to $22,500, assuming that all dividends were reinvested. While many investors complain about returns in the lost decade, that outcome seems remarkably satisfactory. Investing today. Alas, I must caution you that such a generous return is unlikely to recur in the coming decade. Current conditions in the financial markets are more challenging. In the bond market, the yield on the 10-year U.S. Treasury note has plummeted from 6% to just 1.6%, suggesting a reduction of some 70% in bond returns during the years ahead. Some enhancement in return could be achieved by placing greater emphasis on an investment-grade corporate bond index fund, which now yields about 3%. There is, of course, some extra credit risk involved, and you should carefully consider this before you take action. In the stock market, on the other hand, conditions appear to be somewhat more favorable. The dividend yield has doubled from 1% to 2%, and market valuations seem to have returned to sanity. Stocks were selling at a speculative multiple of 30 times earnings in 2001. Today's multiple of 16 times is pretty much in line with historical norms. But risk abounds. The wise retirement plan investor will not reach out too far for income. Stan's advice on asset allocation comes to the same conclusion. Be careful. Other issues. Stan Hinden recognizes that a successful retirement requires much more than a successful investment program. His chapters on health insurance, preparing for illness, deciding where you want to live, and estate planning present a wide variety of ideas, many of which I had never given much consideration. But I'm considering them now. And in his final chapter on successful aging, he gives all of us in the 60s, 70s, and 80s age group a marvelous compendium of good advice, including how to maintain our physical and mental energies, some tricks we can use when memory fails, yes, it happens to me too, and how to remain actively engaged in the great game of life. Of course, meeting that challenge remains elusive for all of us, even for Stan himself. He touches on the changes he made in his own plans when his wife developed Alzheimer's disease several years ago. This is a great book because it fills a major gap in the investment literature. There are countless books about accumulating financial assets for retirement, but there are few about what to do when you get there, and Stan's book offers as intelligent and comprehensive an approach as I've seen. It takes a great deal of the mystery and confusion out of retirement, and by so doing, allays much of the anxiety you may feel as the time approaches. To say that Stan Hinden is well qualified to write a book on retirement is something like saying that Tiger Woods is well qualified to hold a golf clinic. First, as the saying goes, Stan has been there, done that. He's closed out his remarkable career as a successful journalist, retiring from his job as a financial columnist for the Washington Post in 1996, and now has 16 years of retirement under his belt. Although he's remained active and productive, obviously investing a large amount of time in writing this book, having it both ways, as the author puts it, he knows where the challenges and opportunities lie. With his first-hand expertise on retirement, his journalist's gift for simple writing, and his considerable financial expertise, Stan Hinden has carried off with considerable success the challenge of helping those of us who are considering or experiencing retirement. In How to Retire Happy, the 12 most important decisions you must make before you retire, he has done so with flair and common sense. I am confident that his wisdom will improve your own preparation for retirement and help all of us who take the opportunity this book presents to consider his helpful and constructive advice. John C. Bogle, founder and former chief executive, The Vanguard Group, Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, August 29, 2012. Preface. This is the book I wish I had been able to read before I retired. If I had, my monthly Social Security check would be fatter, my company pension would be better, my retirement savings account would be significantly larger, and I'd have a better chance of making my money last during what I hope will be a long retirement. But that's not all. If I had known then what I know now, I would have been better prepared, both psychologically and emotionally, for my retirement. I also would have had a keener appreciation for the life-enhancing opportunities and experiences that retirement can bring you. I retired from the Washington Post in 1996. I was then 69 years old, and I had spent 23 years at the Post, the last 12 years as a financial columnist, writing about stocks and mutual funds. All told, I spent about 45 years in journalism as a reporter, writer, and editor. Several months after I retired, I began writing a column for the Post called Retirement Journal that chronicled my experiences as a retiree. In essence, this book is the story of my retirement, what I learned, and what I think you should know about the subject. My goal is to take the mystery out of retirement and to reduce the confusion that many retirees feel. Shortly after I left my full-time job, I realized that I was woefully unprepared to make many of the decisions that are required of a retiree. I knew little, if anything, about Social Security, Medicare, Medigap, Medicare HMOs, long-term care, mandatory IRA withdrawals, pensions, and so on. But even though I was uninformed, I had to make far-reaching personal decisions on all of those subjects. Inevitably, as you will read, I made some bad decisions and learned some costly lessons. The job of writing a regular column about my retirement experiences opened a window for me on a part of life that I had not known much about, or even thought much about. Indeed, the more I learned, the more convinced I became that preparation and knowledge are the keys to a happy retirement. It has been said that retirement is not an event, but a process. If so, that process should begin long before you turn in your retirement papers. It is simply not logical to expect that you can learn everything you need to know to make major retirement decisions in a few days, or even a few weeks, as I tried to do. So consider this book to be a reporter's first-hand report from the front lines of retirement. My hope is that this easy reader tour will help future retirees better prepare for the day when they stop working full-time. I also hope the book will help current retirees find ways to improve their retirement experiences. Retirement in America was once a casual, even drab, you're over the hill experience. It was a sign that the retiree was nearing the end of his productive life and was even getting close to the end of life itself. Today, retirement in America has changed dramatically. It has become an upbeat, full-speed-ahead, let's-start-a-second-career experience, made possible by longer lifespans, tax-deferred savings plans, and government-sponsored income and health programs. How to Retire Happy has 12 chapters, each dealing with one of the 12 key decisions that retirees must make during the retirement process. Some of the decisions are related to our attitudes toward life and work, and the complex emotions that surround retirement. We are faced with many questions. How we feel about leaving our longtime friends and colleagues at work, how we feel about relocating to a new community, and even how we feel about growing older. Some of our other decisions involve the web of government programs and regulations that affect all retirees. They include the age at which we take our Social Security payments, the way we manage our health care, and even how we make our mandatory IRA withdrawals when we reach age 70 and a half. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out your withdrawals, although it would help. Finally, there are the financial decisions that will determine whether you will have a comfortable or an uncomfortable retirement. I often think about that old saying, "I've been rich and I've been poor. Rich is better." Smart saving and investing can make the difference, but as the book points out, you will have to work at it. Retirement is not a simple matter, but your retirement decisions will be a lot easier if you take the time to understand your choices. Then you can start having fun. A happy retirement is within everybody's reach. The time to start is now. The place to start is here. An update on the author and his wife. As you will soon discover, How to Retire Happy is, in many ways, the story of both my retirement and that of my wife, Sarah. We were married in 1953, and in May of 2012, as the fourth edition of this book was being prepared, we marked our 59th wedding anniversary. The event was not quite as joyous as it might have been, because by then Sarah was suffering from Alzheimer's disease. As a result, she now lives in a small group home for dementia patients, where she receives 24-hour care. Sarah is also afflicted by aphasia, a condition that prevents her from expressing coherent thoughts. Signs of Sarah's illness first appeared in 2007, when she was 78, and the diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease soon followed. Slowly but steadily, she lost her cognitive abilities. She moved to the group home in 2011, when she was no longer able to perform basic functions of daily living. Needless to say, Sarah's condition dramatically changed both her retirement and mine. Until then, we had been poster children for a happy, upbeat retirement. When I delivered a talk about retirement, members of the audience would often crowd around Sarah to question her about her own experiences with retirement. I am discussing Sarah's illness at the start of this new edition because my experience with Alzheimer's disease has given me a new perspective on how one prepares for serious illness during retirement. I plan to share those thoughts with you in Decisions 8 and 9, the health-related chapters. For many retirees, as they age, death and disease are unwelcome realities of life. But for those who remain healthy, the challenge is to find purpose and happiness in retirement. It can be done. Some suggestions will be found in Decision 12, How Can I Age Successfully? Stan Hinden. Decision 1. Am I ready to retire? Are you ready to retire? When the stress levels at work seem unbearable, it's easy to be flippant and shout, "You bet I'm ready to retire. Let me out of here." At such moments, it's also easy to fantasize about all the things you could do if you didn't have to go to work every day. You can see yourself soaking up the sun on a tropical beach, whiling away the hours on a golf course, or having gobs of time to read, watch movies, or trade stocks online. You think about all the things you've wanted to do but never had time for, cruising around the Greek islands, touring Australia and New Zealand, watching the bullfights in Spain, or enjoying Carnival in Brazil. And then you suddenly realize that you could even buy a season ticket for your local baseball team and go to games in the middle of the week. What a luxury! It's also quite wonderful to think about all the things you could give up, all your bosses, all those memos, and all those boring meetings. Gone, too, from your life would be those rush-hour traffic jams and the frustrations of your daily commute. If your job requires you to travel, you could stop bouncing around in airplanes and trying to sleep on lumpy hotel room pillows. As a retired person, you'd be free to make your own schedule, to do what you want to do, and go where you want to go when you want to go there. Ah, freedom! But wait, Remember the old adage? If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Like a lot of daydreams, these visions of retirement may or may not be realistic. They may not even be what you really want when you retire. The fact is that when you face the question, "Am I ready to retire?" your answer may have little to do with your fantasies, and a lot more to do with your age, your health, your family, the nature of your job, your financial situation, and your outlook on life. So to be realistic, let's look at the pros and cons of retiring. We'll discuss 3 good reasons for retiring and 3 equally good reasons for not retiring. Then we'll talk about people who have it both ways. They retire and, guess what? Then go back to work, usually part-time. As people live longer and healthier lives, the part-time option is becoming more and more popular. We'll also look at what life is like for married couples after they retire. And we'll talk about the psychological impact of retirement, how you can go from a busy, even frantic working life to a laid-back but productive retirement. 3 good reasons for retiring. Reason 1. The time is right. If there is a time under the sun for everything, then surely there will be a time in your life when you can look in the mirror and rightfully tell yourself, "I've worked hard all my life. I've met every challenge life has thrown at me. It's time for me to stop working and to start living life my own way. These are the years that belong to me." If this is how you truly feel, that's fine. Once you retire, you'll be free to shape your life in the manner that gives you the greatest satisfaction and happiness. But to make the most of your new freedom, you'll need a plan. In a way, retiring is like going on a trip abroad. You wouldn't just pack a suitcase and board a plane. You'd try to prepare for your journey. You'd read guidebooks about the places you plan to visit, study currency exchange rates, and find out what kind of weather to expect. And, of course, you'd prepare an itinerary so that you'd know where you were going and when. Similarly, if you want your journey into retirement to be successful, you must do 2 things. First, you need to equip yourself with the information you'll need on your journey into the world of Social Security, Medicare, Medigap, long-term care insurance, pensions, and 401k plans. Second, you need to decide what you want to do in retirement. Doing nothing is not a viable option for most people. Studies show that people who retire from active careers and become couch potatoes often suffer from depression and other ills associated with feeling useless and unwanted. Your retirement plan can take many forms. You can spend your time improving your golf or tennis game, coaching a kid's soccer or baseball team, working for a service club such as the Lions or Kiwanis, or volunteering for a charitable or community organization. Many retirees enjoy spending time with their children and grandchildren. I know I do. Retirement is a great time to complete some of your long-delayed personal projects. You may want to take some college courses, learn to play a musical instrument, or try your hand at writing mystery novels or painting. Many retirees, even those starting at late ages, demonstrate unusual creativity and artistic skills. Whatever you decide to do in retirement, your plan should have one main objective: to keep you mentally and physically active and in close contact with other people. That is the way to achieve a successful retirement. Reason 2. You have more compelling things to do. As we age and gain experience, we often find that our goals in life become clearer. So it was with my friend Jane Houghton. Religion, faith, and community service had long been the cornerstones of her life. Inwardly, she knew that when she retired someday, she would find a way to fulfill her personal commitment to be of service to others. I believe God has a plan for our lives, which is revealed in time, Jane says. In 1999, Jane recalled, my mother lived with us. It gave us great insight into what life is like for a person who is elderly, has significant health and financial issues, and feels that life is not within her control. Jane said she soon realized that while churches focus on the needs of youth, the newly married, and active adults, they rarely address the needs of seniors. The more Jane studied the problem, the more she became convinced that forming a ministry for seniors was destined to be her calling in retirement. In 2001, Jane, who was then 55, retired from the federal government, where she had worked for 31 years as a public information specialist and as the manager of the news division in her agency. Her government pension was reduced somewhat because she took early retirement, but she didn't believe money would be a problem. Her husband, Paul, was a retired Air Force colonel with his own pension. We looked at his income and my income in retirement, at our savings and our expenses, and we decided we could afford to retire, Jane said. To enjoy an active retirement and pursue Jane's ministry for seniors, the couple moved to Virginia Beach, Virginia, where they became co-leaders of the senior adult ministry at Spring Branch Community Church. The programs, Jane said, are designed for people 50 and older and are intended to help retirees who need a connection to people who will provide support and caring. Jane believed that she and other volunteers would be able to brighten the lives of many seniors who were lonely and isolated. Retiring at 55 was a golden opportunity, she said. And so it seemed until 2006, when Jane's dream was interrupted by a diagnosis of breast cancer. 3 surgeries were followed by months of chemotherapy and radiation, and by some deep reflection about what she wanted out of life. In November 2007, the Hodens left Virginia Beach for Fort Myers, Florida, where they bought an apartment at the Shell Point Retirement Community. Shell Point is a continuing care retirement community, CCRC, where Jane will have whatever assisted living or nursing care she might need in the future. Jane's reflections on the course of her life led to a decision to devote more time to personal pursuits, including photography and travel. There are times, she said, when you have to look into yourself and decide what makes you happy. One thing that makes Jane and Paul especially happy is their regular fellowship, prayer, and Bible study meeting with other Shell Point residents, an activity sponsored by the Sanibel Community Church on nearby Sanibel Island. Jane, who is 67, has been cancer-free for 5 years, an important milestone for cancer patients. With her health stable, she and Paul have been touring the United States in an RV. Each year from May through September, Jane said, we escape Florida's heat and hurricanes and head for the open road. It's an adventure, and every day is different. Our summer sojourns have enabled us to live in the shadow of Mount Rushmore, to be captivated by the sand and surf of North Carolina's Outer Banks, to experience mile-high living in Colorado, and at this writing, to be thrilled by the lakes area of Maine. The scenery is stunning. We visit areas of the country we have not seen but would like to explore, and look for campgrounds where we can find employment, Jane noted. Usually we work about 20 hours each week in exchange for our site, which includes water, sewer, and electricity. If we work additional hours, we are paid a modest salary, which helps with the price of fuel. Because the jobs are seasonal and part-time, we have been fortunate to have had many offers and opportunities. In fact, many campground managers have told us how much they enjoy having seniors on their staff. RVing and working at campsites have been great experiences and are fun ways to meet interesting people from all walks of life. We are loving it, Jane said. Reason 3. Your job is changing. My friend Larry, who is a scientist, retired from the federal government after 35 years. He was 60 when he decided to leave. He told me that he had been undecided about retiring that early, but that organizationally his agency was in a state of flux that he felt was not personally satisfying.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?